Welcome to another edition of the Crown's Way video newsletter. I am your host, Kyle Roscoe, of course, with managing partner to my right, Tony Rollo, and a person you get to meet and get very familiar with here soon in Armando Hernandez. Those of you who have been with Crown's Way for a little while have recognized Armando's name. He's trained a couple of horses for us in the past, but not to give too much away, but Armando's going to be taking on a bigger role for us here coming soon to 2026. Tony, lots of obviously very important things to talk about during this video newsletter, but also some very fun things to talk about, as well as also not only with Armando, but also some races coming up for our horses.
Yeah, I mean, after a slow couple months, we're finally ready to start running some horses again. And I thought it was a good time for our partners to become more familiar with Armando, as he's going to be heading up a new claiming group for us. So thought it'd be good to, as we try to get more interactive with the partners, and you guys can get a little FaceTime with some of the trainers and see how it all works.
And of course, that's what this video newsletter is for, Tony, is just trying to get people not only more familiar with what we do, but also with our trainers, exactly what we're thinking on a weekly basis and stuff like that. And obviously, when we bring on someone in a larger role, Armando, just like you, we're going to get to meet you and hopefully answer some people's questions for you. So obviously, Armando Hernandez, we're very happy to bring you on here for the 2026. Again, we've had you on multiple horses in the past. We've had a ton of successes, not only in the Midwest, but also your winter string down at Oaklawn does very well. But just for people that aren't too familiar with you, talk about how you got started in the game. Not only that, but also how long you've been doing it, and obviously leads into your recent successes you've had.
Yeah, so hi guys, nice to meet you. I started in the thoroughbred business back in 2007. I started out working as a veterinarian assistant for Dr. Gilman in Chicago. I worked for him for about 13 years. Learned all I could as far as, managing a horse and, just the ins and outs of the business and of a horse. In 2019, he retired. Um, and it kind of put me in a position where I had to basically move on to a different career or continue in the thoroughbred business. And from that point on, I chose to train a couple of my horses that I had previously purchased with my brother like 2 or 3 years back. That I started out claiming horses 4,000, and we did fairly well with them. We quadrupled our money and did well, and it started from that point on. And once the veterinarian that I was working for just basically decided to call it quits. I it was a tough situation because it's like, what do I do? It's train or go on and look for a different job, which I did. I'm married. I got 3 kids, and it's a life-changing decision for me because I got to be able to provide for my family. And I was put in a difficult situation because it's like I got to be able to do all this, but at the same time I want to do what I love, and that is be with horses. So I had my CDL. I took a driver's job for waste management. I did that 6 months, but in between all that, I was paying somebody to take care of my horses while I was still training them, and it just wasn't working out. I couldn't do 2 jobs but still have my horses. And I got to talking to my wife, and I told them, this is not, I'm not happy doing this driving job. I want to dedicate myself full time to the horses, which I did. And from that point on, one thing led to another. I started off with 2 or 3 horses of my own, and then I met another owner that gave me an opportunity to train really good quality horses. We started out claiming horses, and every horse that I claimed with that guy has produced money. And thankfully I've been able to move good horses up to a different level, and done well with them. And that started in 2020, and 6 years later, I'm still doing something that I love. And I every day's a new day. I'm just I love what I do.
Yeah, and Armando, actually, the fun thing that I always remember, the first I for you that that doesn't know this, I worked at Arlington for 5 years. That was my kind of get into that's where I met Tony. That's where I actually met the owner of the podcast that I run on the HHH Racing podcast. A
Okay.
horse that I always remember showing up for you was Bet with Both Hands. That was one
Oh,
of my earliest remembrance of your training jobs early, and that horse ran some very, very nice races
yeah.
for
So
you.
yeah. So when me and my brother claimed that horse, I was still working with the vet. But we claimed it under my buddy Steve Manley's trainer's name, because working with the vet, I couldn't have my trainer's license. So I said, "Hey, Steve, can you claim this horse for us?" And surprisingly, we were the only persons in for that horse. That was the biggest claim I have done in my short career, and biggest money I've ever spent on a horse, to be honest, because I was like, man, 12,500, that's a lot of money for me, young, and you know, it was crazy for me, really. So we claimed that horse, bet with both hands for 12.5, and a month later I put him in for I think it was 30, non-3. He wins the race with Mitchell Murrow, just drawn away. I was like, holy cow. I mean, I still have videos of that. It was just amazing. And then I think the following year, 2 years later, 2021, I go on to Ellis Park and win my first stake with that horse with Rocco Bowen. That was just, we broke a track record. It was a short-lived
Yep.
track record because it was a mile and 132, and then 2 races later, a filly came and broke that record. But we held that record for at least 2 races.
Like I said, obviously the horse won, the Mint Million Stakes as well. I mean, just a whole ton of your successes early were with that with that horse. But leading into your, successes, Armando, you started out, in Illinois, as you mentioned, with that veterinarian job, but you've also gone other ways. You've been to Oaklawn. You've done very well at Oaklawn, with obviously limited supply that you have. Now branching into Kentucky as well. Give people a little bit of a synopsis about not only your successes in the past, but also, your strings going forward.
Yeah, so I branched out first a couple years ago. I made the decision to go down to New Orleans, fairgrounds. I went down there with about 15 horses. We win, I believe, three, bunch of seconds and thirds. I love training down there, but it just it wasn't for me.
Mhm.
So, anyways, we did that, tried that. The following year, I came here to Oakland, and I love the atmosphere. I love the town, and just really good racing here, and the purses, they're great,
Correct.
especially if you can, win even second place or third place money. It's just real good here. Um, and moving on this year, unfortunately with the Hawthorne situation that we're currently going through right now, we're planning on sending a string of horses up to Kentucky this year, and be able to transition into that circuit, so we can get into claiming strong a little bit more stronger, and be able to hopefully flip some horses and do good with them.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
So that's
definitely
the
not a
yeah.
bad time to get into claiming at Churchill, which we'll talk about in the new series. But the money is at an all-time high in Kentucky, as it is in Oaklawn, and to have a claiming horse, there's nothing wrong with running for that rather than 2-year-olds and all that, because the money is huge and you can find something and run it back right at the same price. But because the purses are so big, be profitable with that model.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. And obviously, Tony, we'll talk about here in a second. Armando, like I said, it's been, like I said, I don't even know a lot of this about you. And I've, saw your name of the program in Illinois for God knows how long at this point. So, like I said, it's fantastic to get to know you more and more. We're excited to bring you on, Armando. So, like I
Thank you.
said,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, and we are too. So I'll take you off here, Armando. Like I said, thanks for hopping on and giving people at least a little bit of a
Yeah,
glimpse into your life. Obviously, the people will see more and more of you, as Tony and I will touch on here in a second. But yeah, Armando, thanks again. Really
yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Absolutely,
Thanks,
my
Armando.
friend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, Tony, my friend. That's it. Armando, absolutely great guy. I said, I met him a couple times, more and more, obviously, as this series goes on. But uh, he's done very well for us. Obviously, Managing Mischief was obviously under him. Horses ran a couple really nice races for us, and he does very well with his claiming horses. So we're very excited to bring him on.
Yeah, and I think he's obviously not been getting the top tier of
Right.
what we train, with Peggy's Way and Cutlass King, and then followed by Managing Mischief, who we just had some injury issues with. But I'm excited to turn over a claiming string to Armando and work with him. It's a very similar situation. I would point out to like what Crown's Way people are familiar with when we had Carlos. Now it's nothing going against Kelsey, and we're still going to be using Kelsey with a lot of horses, but it's always nice to have a little bit of diversity or diversified in the group and have, Kelsey's big outfit kind of have those big horses. And right now, and as I'll explain when we start the new group, it's nice to have a really nice claiming trainer as well. And I think Armando is going to do a fantastic job for us.
I mean, you're also talking about just, diversification in general, right? I mean, for those of you that are business inclined, talking about getting the portfolio, just think about it like stocks, right? You don't want to have all your stocks in one basket, right? Or all your money in one stock. Not only having these horses that we grow, from 2-year-olds and up, now having this claiming string as well. It's two sides of one coin, right? You have two separate horses in two separate divisions. And if both of them do well, obviously that turns a very nice profit for us. But as you mentioned, Tony, I mean, buying horses in Oaklawn or Kentucky and then flipping them around, even if they get claimed for the same price next time out, not only are you making that claiming price back, in theory, they could also make that purse money, which is, like you mentioned, ludicrous in both places.
Yeah. And, it allows us to be more adaptable to the trends of the industry. If the 2-year-old market's too high, then we can go into claiming. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do, is build as they say, be like water. And we'll be able to, wherever the industry goes, we'll be able to put ourselves in a good position to have the best opportunity to turn a profit for our partners.
Not only that, I mean, also have a lot of action involved in that as well, because obviously you claim these horses,
claiming horses,
and you'll be able to churn through very nicely. So, speaking of action, Tony, we have a lot of action coming up, of course, for a couple of our horses. As you mentioned before, the card just came out for Turfway next week, and Shards, the big man, will be returning for that card. You also have a couple of dates coming up, of course. Otago running back, the Hun making the debut, as well as Second City Saint. First time off of a little bit of a layoff for her.
Yeah, so finally, it looks like finally we're going to run some, knock on wood. Shards has already been entered once, and that ice storm canceled the racing. We had been looking at possibly running him a mile, possibly still sprinting. The mile is definitely still something we want to try with him, but this first race back, we're going to go with what we know he likes to do, and the 6.5 furlongs on the synthetic at Turfway should hit him right between the eyes.
Not only that, I mean, talking about Shards at Turfway, I mean, last year was absolutely lights out, ran that triple-digit buyer as well. So, and he runs well off layoffs. So we're very excited, of course, to have him back on the entry sheet. Again, knock on all the wood in here that there's not, negative degree weather coming through. But again, it looks to be pretty nice, and they could finally get some racing in at Turfway. As mentioned before, you have Otago, the Hun, and Second City Saint. Obviously, very different phases of each of their careers, but very excited, again, to have some action in and at least some dates available for these horses coming up.
Yeah, so the Hun, we actually entered today along with Shards for next Wednesday at Turfway. Shards' race went, the Hun's didn't, but the Hun's race is back on the overnight, so we will enter him again tomorrow for Thursday. Still not 100% sure we're going to run. We need one more work with him and get a gate card. The gate card is, for people unfamiliar, you work from the gate, and the gate crew basically has to approve you as this horse knows what it's doing in here, and you can't run without the gate card. I think that's more to protect the bettors, to keep the bettors from betting on a horse that has no ability to break from the gate. But we don't foresee that being a problem for the Hun. Before he got a little hurt and went on his layoff, he was breaking from the gate excellent. So we don't expect that to be a problem, but provided he has a good work either tomorrow or Friday, I'm not sure what Kelsey's going to do depending on the weather, he'll be ready to run. And we will be entering Second City Saint tomorrow for a race next Thursday at Turfway. So hopefully we'll run one Wednesday and 2 Thursday next week as we kind of get kicked off again into 2026 after the ice storm pretty much delayed us on a lot of fronts. So it's good to have horses back in the gate and have a chance to turn profits with them and earn some purse money because the bills don't stop even when we're not running. So
No, of course not. But not only that, Tony obviously set a whole lot of people back, considering that that 2 weeks of winter weather that we had come through not only canceled all of Turfway, basically canceled everywhere. I mean, all of
yeah,
Oak
Oak
Lawn,
Lawn.
Aqueduct, everything was gone. So obviously, very nice to have all of that racing back. And again, those entry opportunities are back for the stable. Couple of updates on around the barn as well. Vote No, Bucks Howl are a couple that we've seen run in the past. However, I know we have a couple health updates that we wanted to touch on.
Yeah, and before we get to those, Otago, his race was
Yes,
circled
of course,
for the
sorry.
27th of February.
Perfect. So yeah, in a couple
That's
weeks.
what we're looking at for him.
And where was that?
Also
At
at
Turfway?
Turfway, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And
then
then
so
Vote
as we
No, when he got back from Fairgrounds, he had a colic episode that brought him to the clinic. Thankfully, Kelsey's team was on it very quickly. I know the people probably remember colic is what we lost Mayuchi's Revenge from. But Kelsey's team caught it very early, and when you catch it early, you're able to keep things from getting serious. So we got him right to the clinic. We got fluids in him, and we're able to avoid surgery, and he's back into light training. So it will be a little bit space of time before he runs again, but thankfully, no layoff needed, no surgery. He's back in training at Turfway, and we're able to move forward on him. Bucks
news.
Howell, I know people saw the vet scratch a couple weeks ago. We weren't really sure what the vet had him scratched for. They claimed an injury that we brought him back to Palmettos. We went over him, couldn't find any sort of injury. You know, the vets can scratch for even if the horse jogs off and the horse could be distracted by a bird, and that's why it was jogging funny, you know, so we're not all that worried about it. He does have some small bone bruising that we've been dealing with on and off with him. So we thought this was a good time to just let him walk for a few weeks and just kind of get him ramped up again. So he'll go back into training, I think, sometime next week.
So obviously very good news, not only with us having some action up coming up, but obviously Vote No. I mean, like you said, it kind of hinted in your voice that I mean, it's a very serious situation, but being able to catch it early kind of works that way, you know, diseases in humans as well. If you catch it early enough, no serious repercussions will occur. And obviously with something as dangerous as colic can be, I'm obviously one of the stars of the barn. We're very happy that that was caught early with him. And of course, Buck, we're very the Florida contingency as myself, always excited to get him back to the races and we can see him live again as well. Tony, there's a lot of other interesting stuff going around. Not only we're going to go over our full 2025 recap stats right here in a second, and then we'll fully launch Series H, which will come to you guys soon. Tony, full 2025 stats on the board right now. And this is actually anyone can come through and look at these stats. They're all done through a website called OwnerView. It's ownerview.com/syndicate. And this keeps track of all stats for all racing syndicates in North America for 2025. I mean, you can go through, obviously we are right here. You have Dare to Dream Stable, a Chicago outfit, Donegal Racing, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, which is one of the biggest, Little Red Feather Racing, My Racehorse. I mean, just all the big outfits are also here, and we are listed here along with them. Tony, even though, like I said, to some people, it didn't feel like we ran a whole lot. I mean, we still had 47 starters this year, but 23% on the win end, Tony, is a very, very nice number to meet. And you'll talk about this here in a second, but I'll bring it up first. I mean, Donegal Racing won at 16.5%. Granted, ran 97 starts instead, but still we're well above that mark. Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, one of the biggest syndicates in the entire nation, won at 19.5%. Obviously, we're higher than that number as well. So even though we didn't have a whole lot of starters compared to all these other outfits, Tony, still the wins were there.
Yeah, that was just, you know, I kind of wanted to point this out. I know it's been a rough couple months as far as not being able to get them in the starting gate, and our starter numbers have definitely been affected by that. But we had a monster start to the year in 2025, and I just want to point out the health of the stable, what we've been doing, and a 23% win clip, I think, is a hard-earned number that we should be proud of. Hopefully we can keep that percentage up with a rise in starters with this new claiming group. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to show everybody where Crown's Way stacks up, and obviously thank everyone for their support and letting us compete on a level like this. And I think as we continue to grow our Crown's Way stable, it's kind of showing that even at the small start and the small budget that we played with compared to Eclipse Thoroughbreds or Starlight Racing, I see as you slide through, those people are spending $500,000-$600,000 on a horse, West Point too, exactly. And to show that, pound for pound, we compete with everybody up there, and we're going to look to continue that and even keep trying to grow what we do. Having a percentage close to 25% would be a great thing, but obviously we need to have more starts, and that's something we're going to try to address with the claiming group.
And obviously, Tony, that leads us right into Series H. You mentioned it with Armando. We've been hinting at it all video newsletter long, that this is going to be a little bit different from the series as we've done in the at least the close past with all the way from E to G and stuff like that. Select B as well. Select B is kind of like that mixed group, right? Obviously, we had Vote No, which we claimed into that group as well. Obviously, we hope all the claims turn out like Vote No, but the Series H group, as you've mentioned many times already, is going to be revolved around that claiming and kind of that churning of these horses, hopefully getting those starter numbers up.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vote No was probably the first horse we had claimed in 2 or 3 years when we dropped a claim on him. And it's our bread and butter when we started. It's all we did at the start was claim horses. First 5 to 10 horses we owned were all claims, and it's something I'm excited to get back to.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of them on the wall right here. I mean, you got to tell me on a Sunday, for those that remember, one of the best claims that we've had in our, Trafalgar Shore, obviously the Indiana bred who we claimed, and she won 4 or 5 races for us at Indiana. So, the claiming group really, at least for us in the past, has been very kind to us. And obviously we hope to keep that going.
Yeah. And, as I said, it's nice to be more adaptable to the things of the industry. And when we were pitching the pinhooking group, I'm sure some people remember me saying how high these 2-year-old markets have been lately. And that was a great reason for us to get into the pinhooking group, as we have our 5 to sell in the 2-year-old and training group this year. But to the counter end, I'd rather not buy into the teeth of this seller's market as far as a group. Now, I'll still keep my eyes open for something out there, and maybe we'll add a 2-year-old to this group. But primarily, I want to look at claiming. The great thing about increasing our starters is the claimers can be ready 3 weeks after you claim them. Correct. Where the 2-year-olds, you're looking at 2 months minimum, but in most cases more like 6, 7, 8. The Hund, he has yet to start, but he hopefully start next week. That would be close to 10 months. Correct. From purchasing him to running. In the case of Silver Run Ready, where they never make it to the races. Obviously, the 2-year-olds give you a higher upside because you're buying an untested asset. But as we pointed out, Vote No was a claim, and we were able to reach racing's highest levels with him. So correct. It's not like we're losing all the upside. And right now, as we kind of transition to what hopefully can be a more profitable group moving forward, I think the claiming is the best way to go.
And that's not only the thing, right, Tony, is you're talking about with how the 2-year-olds are, it's a risk really to take on these 2-year-olds. Obviously, with more risk, you can have more upside with that, as you mentioned. But it's not only going to be more action for these partners, but also being able to turn a profit a lot quicker, because we've seen in the past, like I said, where horses, even when they're not running and they're still, in training, they're accruing those bills. Being able to have this claiming group can also mitigate that type of risk when these horses are able to, obviously with our model, right, Tony, that, you have the 6 months maintenance and stuff like that. Through those 6 months, these claiming groups can get immediate impact right away. Yeah. And they're not always in claiming. I mean, like I said, Trafalgar Shore was one of those horses I mentioned before. She was claimed, I think, for 15,000 at fairgrounds, if I'm not mistaken. And she went immediately, she's an Indiana bred, so she went immediately to those Indiana allowance races and found an absolute home there, winning 4 or 5 for us there. So they don't have to stay in these claiming races. They can move up. Obviously, Vote No is a prime example of that, winning a $200,000 stake race 2 races after we claimed him for 50,000. So as you mentioned, the upside's still there, but the risk is also mitigated a lot with these horses, as long as obviously we were going to be very selective with these claims. And then when we do claim these horses, they have the chance to make that money back right away.
Yeah, exactly. And even Tell Me on a Sunday was a claiming horse that won an allowance race at Hawthorne. Who was the other one? Obviously, Pat Shoes, the original Crown's Way horse, was a 20 claimer that won a bunch of starter races and got to the claiming crown.
Starter allowance,
and
correct.
The claiming crown is something that I do want to get back to. We've been there twice with Pat Shoes and Judy's Way, and that's definitely something I'll have circled on the calendar. And I think I've seen the kind of success I'm looking for from Armando as far as these claimers, and him showing that he can compete at Oaklawn is a big launching point. Winning at such a high clip at Hawthorne is one thing, but then when you start showing that you're able to compete at these top circuits, I'm very excited to see what Armando can do in Kentucky. And I'm excited to kick this thing off. So one of the main things we'll be doing is I will be reaching out to every partner about where their status of their capital account is at. If they owe money going into next year, or if they have, in a lot of cases, money coming back. I believe Series D, which is Otago, is paying a small dividend, along with Series E, which is Shards, is paying a small dividend. Series F, which was Minnesota Money, Bucks Howell is still in that series. That one will be paying a larger share out to the partners, where I think in Otago and Shards' case, it's a small, very small dividend. But in Series F, it's a big dividend. In Series Select A, which was managing Mischief, that series no longer exists. That series will be sending out a good amount of money. And then Select B will have to do a small cash call. Once again, just we haven't not been able to get these horses to the races. But in most people's cases, as most of our partners are in more than one group, what they have coming back covers what they'll owe for Select B. So I'll be reaching out to everyone, and then everyone can decide if they want to roll over their money into the new Series H, if people want to take their money out. And that's how we'll be doing it moving forward. And then ideally, time-wise, we'll look to claim sometime probably around middle of April, sometime at Keeneland. Would probably make sense to me, and then we're running at Churchill. And then if we do buy a 2-year-old for this group, it'll be the same thing. We'll be looking at the April sale.
Yeah, and obviously, Tony, that'll be my first time at a sale, so I'll be very excited to do that. But again, you get these you run at these high-profile tracks, especially with these claimings, as we mentioned. Hawthorne obviously having their struggles, but we're also going to be running at Oaklawn, at Churchill, at Keeneland, at these bigger outfits that have this bigger money too, which should be something very exciting for our partners going forward, not only through the winter, but obviously as we get into Series H and then through the summer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember making the pitch when we were switching from claiming horses to 2-year-olds. At that time, we were running primarily at Arlington. And when you're running a claiming race at Arlington, we were running,
right.
I think when Pat Shoes was winning starter 8 or starter 5s at Arlington, I think the purse on that race was like $12,000.
We'll say like 18,000. Yeah.
We wanted to, bump up the purse level we were running for to like the maiden special weights at Arlington, which were 30. Now, when you're going to claiming horses at Churchill, I mean, we're probably still going to be running for 50, 60 a pop, which is double what we were running for when we made the transition to 2-year-olds. So I think it's a good time to get back into the claiming game. I think the claiming game has never been stronger. I'd like to point out, one of the big things you had to worry about with claiming horses is, am I getting a healthy horse that I'm claiming? And with a lot of the new rules that Kentucky has put in, these horses got to pass a vet check before they run. It's never been tougher to pass a vet check before the race. And then after they're claimed, I mean, these horses, remember Jones Way got claimed at Churchill, and she clipped heels with another horse, had a small superficial cut on one of her legs and they voided the claim. So you're much more protected when you're claiming at Kentucky.
Correct.
What you see is why so many horses are getting claimed there. And I think it's time that we jump in on some of that money.
And I think it's a very good idea. Obviously, you can see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now. And the big thing is, of course, with this claiming group, Tony, is the communication. Because obviously, once this claiming group goes, we're going to have a lot of churn with the 2-year-olds obviously running. You know who exactly your horse is. You know exactly what they're doing. The communication is going to be not only through email, but through Twitter. If you don't follow us on X, follow us at Crownsway Racing. Going to be a lot of updates coming through, especially through this Series H and through the summer. I already post, and obviously I'm the one that handles that. I post a bunch of stuff already, including alerts when our horses get entered, workouts, and all that type of stuff over on the handle. So if you don't follow us, please follow us at Crownsway Racing. But if you want to have if you have any questions about Series H or anything coming up, obviously Armando, Tony's more than happy to answer. You can email him, Anthony Rollo at crownswayracing.com. You can see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now. Or you can DM on Twitter at Tony Crownsway. He'll be more than happy. I'll also be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, because that's the one thing also we want to strive to with Series H is, of course, is that communication, Tony, because at the end of the day, our partners want to see the horses. They want to hear about them. So that's the big thing. That's our big focus for 2026.
Yeah, exactly. And having you on to help me with that, I think we're going to be able to offer an unrivaled experience to our partners as far as access to their horses. And, I'm excited to keep on growing and keep on chasing this dream that we started in 2018. We're going on, year 8 of Crownsway. Yeah. So we're striving to get to, I think we're somewhere about 65 wins since we started. And I'd like to get to 100 sooner rather than later. So we'll just keep on churning it out and hopefully keep on finding the winner circle.
And that's obviously the whole goal for not only racing, but of course for Series H with getting these claiming horses. And again, please follow us on X at Crownsway Racing. Email Tony with any questions. Again, at the bottom of the screen right now, Anthony Rollo at Crownsway Racing. Tony, thanks for joining me. And of course, to Armando Hernandez for joining us as well. We're very excited to bring him on. But this has been the February 11th edition of the Crownsway Video Newsletter. And until next time, everybody, good luck with those horses. And hopefully we can cash some big tickets. Thanks, everyone.